I lay here, pondering, wondering, scrolling, pondering some more. How do I go about telling the internet about something that no one really seems to understand, including myself? I know I'm opening myself up to a world of criticism and misunderstanding here. Years and years I have been pondering, wondering, scrolling, doubting. Lots of doubting. I mean, I still have so many moments where I'm jerked back into reality that this is real. Really, really real. Now, there are many things in real life that feel unreal, mind-blowing, earth-shattering, world-changing things that are some are more tangible, like smartphones or modern medicine or high-speed rail. The new American dream, just about as realistic as the last one at this point. Some things in real life are decidedly less real, or tangible, really, I should say, such as the internet, or faith, hope, live, laugh, love, real or unreal. These things, some might say, are only as real as their impact. Tree falls in a forest type beat. Now, there's a very real reason why we're here. There's a very real reason why I'm making this video, and why you clicked on it. So, let's go ahead and make that real right now. I've made this video to share with you something that only recently I know to be very, very real. My name is Jordan Hayes, and I have been diagnosed with Functional Neurological Disorder, otherwise known as FND, otherwise known as Modern Day Hysteria. Kind of. So what is Functional Neurological Disorder? FND for short. Functional neurological disorder means there's something wrong with the way my nervous system functions. The disorder doesn't stem from any structural abnormality, at least not one that can be seen on standard brain scans and testing. So basically, what's happening is my nervous system both sends and neglects to send the proper signals, which results in a wide, expanding library of symptoms. Fun! So for me, this looks like my arms pulling back or punching forward, and it might look like a threat, but I promise you'll know when it is. And on occasion, I'll be walking along when my right knee will just not receive the proper signals it needs to engage, and it will just buckle underneath me with very little warning. And most intrusively, seizures. I had my first seizure when I was 16 years old, but I wasn't diagnosed with FND until last April. So, I mean, FND is still a fairly new diagnosis. It was only entered into the DSM in 2013. So, basically, only a year before I had my first seizure. But back then, I actually had been seeing a neurologist for migraines, and when I started having seizures, he sent me to get an EEG, and from there, basically I was told that I was having pseudo-seizures, which is just fancy for fake seizures. I can still recall the EEG tech coming into the room mid-test and ripping the leads off of me, because I had started seizing mid-test and they weren't showing up, so she was huffing something about how they couldn't possibly be real because they weren't showing up. So you might see where this is headed. We eventually said that the cause of my seizures must have been the antidepressants that I had been on for the last 2 years. Because it just made sense. It was the only lead we had. As I tapered off the medication, the seizures tapered as well. And they pretty well went away, for the most part. I had seizures very sparingly from then. I had maybe one or two. It wasn't until I was 22 when I ventured back into the world of antidepressants that the seizures came back. Turns out maybe antidepressants just aren't for me. So flash forward to a random Wednesday night in late January of 2024, when I laid down to go to sleep, and I began to seize, and they haven't stopped since. Since the return of the seizures, I've started experiencing the arm tics and the knee giving out, and without any antidepressants around to blame it on, I didn't really know what to make of my situation. Racking my brain for a rhyme or reason, and trying to make a pattern out of the behaviors and as to why they occur. I've tried to will them away, I've tried to shame myself out of them, to tell myself it just wasn't an option for me to seize, and yet my body betrays me. It took me the whole first year of me being disabled by this familiar yet foreign disorder for me to reach out for help. The narrative of pseudo-seizures had me convinced that this was a prison of my own making, that there was nothing out there that doctors could do for me, that I needed to fix myself. I just needed to want it bad enough or whatever. In January of last year, I sat sobbing in my PCP's office as I admitted to what I had been facing on my own for the past year. So I went from my primary care doctor to a neurologist, to a movement disorder specialist, to a neuropsychiatrist, whose only help for me was to see me again in 6 months. Nope, that's not true. She did give me a referral to occupational therapy, and that therapist then went on to recommend as a remedy for me falling to the ground whenever my knee gives out as I'm walking, for me to walk around with ski poles. So, my disorder is real. Believe me, it's taken me a very long time to be able to say that with my chest. So why, if my diagnosis is as fancy as functional neurological disorder, do I sit here and say, I have modern day hysteria? Pictured here is Marie Whitman, on display for a group of doctors as an example of a hysterical patient. Now, per the Harvard article titled Functional Neurological Disorder Reframed, published in the fall of 2025, this 1887 painting portrays Whitman mid-episode. The article describes it as such. During her episodes, Whitman would jerk her limbs, mumble incomprehensibly, or foam at the mouth. Behavior that resembled a seizure but didn't meet the criteria for epilepsy. Article goes on to explain that many modern-day neurologists believe that Whitman here was experiencing a functional seizure, which is the most common symptom of FND. During the 20th century, research for what would become known as functional neurological disorder came to a screeching halt, with seemingly no care to the significant portion of the population experiencing the disorder. This is in part due to the wandering womb theory of hysteria. This neglect came from a number of reasons. The most damning of them is probably that this disorder is most common amongst young women. To quote further from the Harvard article, FND frequently overlaps with conditions like depression and post-traumatic stress disorder. But these factors alone can't explain the condition. Fewer than half of FND patients can identify a psychological trigger, and most people with psychiatric issues do not develop the neurological symptoms seen in FND. Despite the fact that psychiatry is not the entire picture, it's nearly self-explanatory as to why these patients have been left behind. After all, women being called crazy is nothing new. So regardless of any ties to my psychiatry, what I'm experiencing and what anybody with FND is experiencing is real. Something in my nervous system has gone awry, and I'm tired of trying to convince myself that that's not true, and I'm tired of trying to convince myself that it's my fault. There is no amount of yoga and deep breathing and essential oils that will make this all completely stop. I'm lucky that I have experienced periods of remission, but reality is, FND is my reality. each time I go online to do research about this disorder, I'm reminded about why I stopped doing research about my disorder. I've given up most hope of being treated, but pretty much all hope of being cured. After all, 1/5 of patients that receive multidisciplinary treatment achieve remission. So yeah, it can be a little bit of a bummer living with FND, and I've made a lot of peace with the changes that this disorder has forced upon my life. Turns out ski poles are really freaking expensive. I'm kidding. But they are. It's taken me a very long time to get here. The lessons that I've learned about myself along the way and what I really want have been invaluable. FND is a diagnosis sort of like hysteria, where they look at you and they say, no, something's definitely wrong with you. We just don't really know exactly what. I mean, it just means that they don't know what the heck is going on. And it's because the research isn't there. And it's because the funding isn't there. And the funding isn't there because of misogyny. That one is a threat, if you can believe it. So no! I'm not hysterical. I'm not making this up. Quite frankly, it would be wildly exhausting and time-consuming to try to make up a disorder such as this, or try to fake a disorder such as this. It's taken me this long to have this much experience just to be able to talk about it. I mean, I was afraid to go to the grocery store or to just see my friends. I still struggle with asking for help. I still struggle with not knowing what my body has in store for me, because much like many chronic illnesses, my capabilities vary from day to day. And that makes it very difficult to grieve, because I'm not even entirely sure what I've lost. Something has gone awry here. I am not mistaken. I am by no means hysterical, unless you make me hysterical by continuing to insist that one more yoga class is gonna be the thing that makes the seizures stop for good, then maybe I'll get a little bit hysterical. Okay, you didn't say that though, did you? No, okay. Yeah, you're cool. I don't even find myself holding out for the hope that it will all just go away one day soon. Or at all. I am very thankful for the person that I am today, and that person today has FND, and my person tomorrow will also have FND. And in any period of remission that I ever experience, I will still have FND. I don't even recognize the person who I used to be as the person that I am today. The person pre-return of the disorder, I love her just as much as I do who I am today. We are both equally valuable and worthy of love and community and connection, which is why I'm a big part of the reason why I'm going out of my way to be extra crazy strength vulnerable with you today. As many have come to see, our communities are under attack. Increasingly so in the last few months. It is unfathomable that we are to sit here and experience everything we do and watch with our own eyes as violence unfolds, and then be told that that's not the truth. We understand goddamn well enough that there is something wrong here. How dare you think so little of us to say otherwise? The sad truth is that nobody really wants to believe you. Because who wants to believe these things are true? These horrible, awful things. Accepting these traumas are real means accepting our role in perpetuating those narratives, however passive or active that role may be. It means we can't distance ourselves as much if we accept that these things happen. But isn't it worth a try? Let's say we can be even 1% better for the people around us. Isn't that worth something? Like a small bruise to your ego? That's not worth it? I think it is. Life is full of awful, terrible things. We know this. Now, if we could only allow ourselves to let the light in on the darkest parts, then we can see what we're truly working with. I will admit, I have been part of the problem, especially when it comes to the narrative of FND. I have been an ableist towards myself more often than I can count, but that doesn't discount all the ways in which I've improved. all the ways in which I'm trying to improve. And it sure as hell will not stop me from building a better future for myself and my community. I'm happy to be more transparent about what is going on with me. I'm happy to be letting you all in on this juicy, juicy secret. I'm happy to be letting all this out and sharing it with folks. I don't really want to be alone on this, and I can't imagine leaving my community alone to fend for themselves. It is really so common for people with FND to just be pushed aside, just because they don't know what to do with us. It's not being taught in curriculum. So if you'd like to listen, I'm here to talk about it. The good, the bad, the disordered. Oh, my back popped with that one. That's nice. As for my future, I'm not sure what that looks like. So yeah, it can be a bit of a bummer living with FND, and even more sucky to go through it alone. So I figured I can't sit here and be part of the problem anymore. It took me a while before I could even possibly bring this to the masses, so if you're someone with FND and you're still struggling to go to the grocery store and to see your friends, it's okay. Like, it's okay. Please try to have some compassion for yourself. Don't push yourself to be at a place that you're not. Trust me, it's not gonna help anything. Hopefully, you'll stick around to hear me out as I continue to share about my experience and all the things that I've become so passionate about over the last few years. So if you stuck around this long, you freaking rock, dude. Thanks for that. If you have any questions or curiosities, please leave them in the comments. I'll be making follow-up videos, so be sure to subscribe so you can join this lovely community I'm trying to build here. So thank you. Yes, and that's it. Be good. If you can't be good, be careful. Okay. Good night.